Happy holidays, everyone. It's a little bit early, but we're here. We're back again with Ralph Echemendia, the ethical hacker. So if you caught us, maybe, Ralph, I might be wrong, but it was maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we did our first Ask Me Anything, introduced you to the social media audience for eufy. But in case you missed that, Ralph, why don't you introduce yourself again to people that may not know who you are?
Sure. Thank you, Sean, and happy to be here. My name is Ralph Echemendia. I'm known as the ethical hacker, and I've been doing cybersecurity, specifically offensive security, for so many years, and as well as handled many big cases for, famous people and things of that nature. Worked with movies and so on and so forth. So I've had an exciting career, but my focus has been, especially over the last 5 to 7 years, I would say, really focused on consumer privacy, security, and things like reputation management, which are becoming more of an issue. But as I always like to put it, was make this stuff understandable for for my mom, right, for grandma, for anyone, because at the end of the day, we all are using this technology, consumer technologies, which are very advanced in so many different ways, without really having an understanding of what we give up for the convenience, or an understanding of what that exchange is. So, here to help consumers understand and to make their world safer, as is eufy. So it's a pleasure to work with you guys and use your platform as a means to get the word out and inform people and educate people on how to be safer.
Yeah, and it was eye-opening last time we caught up, because when I associate the term hacker with something negative, but actually I think the work that you do, and we're really lucky at eufy to have you with us, because what you do is exactly how you just explained it. For people like me, when I first buy a video doorbell, you think, oh wow, I've got a video doorbell, but you don't actually realize as great as that is, there are risks. And I think anyone watching right now, go back and watch our first live stream together where we did the Ask Me Anything, and it's eye-opening, because with someone like Ralph's knowledge, rather than go one way with everything he knows how to do and knows the back doors, it's a great advantage to us and everyone watching and the eufy audience. These products that we have, Ralph has helped inform us, and in turn help protect you, your family, and we're super lucky to be working with you. So.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor and a pleasure, son.
I'm excited today because the holidays are my favorite time of year. I say that I'm a big fan of the summer. I like hot weather, but the holidays, like nothing beats getting the Christmas tree, the decorations, the eufy outdoor permanent lights. I do have those set up as well and linked to the cameras.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I brought out the white beard and the hat for the holidays, so. I'm your cybersecurity what do you call it? Santa Claus.
So let's dive straight into it, because the holidays, they are as fun as they are. It can be like a dangerous time of year for a lot of people as well. With traveling to see family and leaving your home, things like that. So we put this out to the eufy audience as well, and I've got a bunch of questions. So if I'm looking off screen, because I'm just referring to these questions, but let's kick it off with what are the best cybersecurity practices to ensure that my smart home devices, such as the eufy cameras, remain secure during the holidays?
And that's a great question, and let me start off by saying this: the holidays are a great time for family and everything else. So it's also a great time for malicious hackers. The holidays are a time where, because we are so busy, right? Because we are not home, because it's one of those times where the normal flow of what we're in is somewhat different. This is a time where hackers, malicious attackers, use this against us, whether it be, in email scams to make it look like it's a special for Black Friday, as recently passed, or whatever it may be. These are times that are often used, and also because of what you just mentioned, Sean, which is that you may not be home, right? This even happens in corporate environments, because people's behavior change during the holidays, right? Because they're not going to be around as much, and the focus and attention is not there as much as it would normally be. So to this question, one of the things to watch out for or to be aware of during the holidays. Number one is with some of the features and settings that you have with, for example, with our cameras, but in general with whatever cameras you may be using, or any smart home devices, is I want you to think of your security and privacy and safety as something that is what I'm starting to call as adaptive privacy or adaptive security or adaptive safety, in that it changes depending on the time of year or an incident that happened or whatever. But in this case, because it's the holidays, um, you know, think of adapting some of your settings to be more refined towards, for example, there's not going to be many people around. So maybe you should sort of tune up or turn up your alerts if you're going to be away from home, right? You should double check what your alerts are and maybe add some alerts to look for movement or whatever it may be, more so, right? Also, things like that you should watch out for making it safer during the holidays is you may want to go to the extent, and this may go towards future questions, but to the extent of potentially changing certain settings, like maybe going and changing your SSID password, your Wi-Fi passwords in the holidays, and just changing them across all of your devices, so that if somebody who had them before, maybe, it's just driving by while you're away from home, it's not going to work if they may have had it before, right?
Right.
And some of the things to watch out for, and this is in general, not just during the holidays, but in general with wireless devices, is if you see that it cuts out, if this starts happening in any kind of regularity, where all of a sudden your cameras glitch, not that it just happens once, but you start seeing that this may happen on any kind of regularity, this is a telltale sign that somebody's trying to do something, right? Because it's in the air, it's Wi-Fi, so it's not all that hard, just like it is with many radio frequency based technologies, to sort of jam them, right? So that's one of the things to look out for if you're one of those consumers who has not just our system, but any number of different devices that are smart home devices. It would affect all of your devices in some way. So that's one of the things to watch out for, is if you see a loss of connectivity or something of that nature. Of course, if you can explain it, like, oh, the internet was down, or our provider had some issues or whatever, great. But if you can't explain it and it happens at any kind of regularity, that's one of those things to be aware of. So the first thing I'd say, like I said, is based on the features that you said, is or the features that your devices have, is to sort of tune up some of the features that you may be able to tune up in your devices to watch and to alert you faster to something that normally wouldn't happen the rest of the year.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm maybe some people that's watching this stream can relate to this, but I'm one of the people that actually mutes notifications, because my dog, for example, sets off in the backyard, and actually I don't turn them back on. So
Right.
I think anyone watching that's similar to me, turning notifications back on. Or actually, what's great in the app now is listening to you speak, especially making holiday settings, you can have the different automations on the Eufy app, which if you haven't got that, that's the free app, which you can literally take care of everything. Like I mentioned, the permanent lights, I have them turn on every day. So even if I'm away, they're going to turn on. It'll look like I'm at home. But even if something happens and the cameras are set off, my house is going to light up like an alarm system. So
and to that point, Sean, it also got to consider that this is also a different time when it comes to even lighting. For example, as you just mentioned, at the moment I'm in Europe, hey, the sun goes down here at like 3:53 p.m. right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And didn't go back through and basically change some of your settings to reflect the fact that the sun's not going down at 8 or 9 or 10 p.m. Right now. This is where these, again, just checking all these things and keeping these things in mind, because we are dealing with not only a different time and different movements in the way that we move around our homes, but even that, just the fact that we have less light, right? So your lights should be set to come on earlier, right? Than normally would. And a lot of people just tend to forget. And just like you said too, we tend to have dealt with alerts for whatever reason, sometimes too much. And by the way, this happened, by the way, in the professional cybersecurity world. There was, tell you a story, there was a technology called intrusion detection systems, right? That are used, highly in corporate. And when this came out, this is supposed to alert you to any attempt at a hack or anything that looks like a hack. And of course, there's a lot of false positives that happen in this and false negatives as well. But you can only imagine. There's an alert. You get one of these devices, you put it in, and you turn everything on, and you say, hey, alert me to everything. And then next thing you know, it's just bzz, 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 bzz. So what people would do is just go and turn everything off, and then come back and slowly turn things back on, and basically you defeat the purpose of the thing. So it's really that's what I'm saying. Really understanding what your features are and understanding your own environment, because it's not as easy as saying, "Hey, turn this feature on or turn that feature on," because your homes are different, right? Your camera setups are different. Everything is different, and no one knows it better than you. So to the point of what we were talking before, hey, my point on it of this thing is you can either be the hacker or you can be the hacked. Be the hacker. Okay, it's not a bad word. It just means really kind of understand how to use the technology in a way that really benefits you, which is what technology should be doing.
Exactly. And I think what's good about to minimize these alerts as well, again, just another plug for the app. I think the AI settings, like we know that everyone's going to have relatives visiting. If I'm not away, someone's coming to my house. So you can already set up your family members just using a simple photo. And then as soon as they approach your house, you're not going to have all the alerts. The lights aren't going to switch on and go crazy. The alarm's not going to go off. So there's probably a ton of exactly what you said earlier. Adaptive, what was it? Adaptive security?
I call it adaptive privacy or adaptive safety.
That was it. Yeah, just exactly like how you mentioned, just adapting to this time of year, the holidays.
We have to look at everything that way, right? Like it's when it comes to these issues, we have we throw words around or one word around: security, safety, privacy, and it's just one word. And that's why I like to throw this word in front of it, because it's not always the same, right?
Yeah.
Your banking, access to your banking is not the same as access to your Instagram. And so you should adapt how you use them. You should think of, hey, well, I shouldn't use the same password on both. They're not the same. One thing is for me to share a picture, and another is for me to share my bank account information. But we oftentimes do, right? We kind of lump this all into security, so think adaptively, and your environment should adapt to that, and and the products you use within, especially smart homes, you should think of especially around these times of year, changing your point of view or your perspective on the features you should be using or not.
So tying into that, the next question we had from the community was, how can I recognize and prevent attempts at hacking or unauthorized access to my smart home system? So
we kind of touched on that, Sean. That was for the most part, one of the things that we're seeing a lot more, is a term we use for Wi-Fi hacking in the hacking world called war driving.
Right.
Somebody could just drive in a car or, bicycle, whatever you want to call it, but generally in a vehicle with nowadays with tiny devices, right? Not even a laptop. And with these devices, they can basically, attack any Wi-Fi network. And this is not really something that's really fixable, right? This is a flaw within the technology from the start. And it's and because it is based on a radio-based frequency type of thing, you can always jam it if you want to think of it that way. And when you jam it, all of these devices are going to have to rejoin the network.
Right. Yeah.
And what happens is when they go to rejoin the network, they have to send the password. And the attacker's just sitting there waiting for that. They'll send the jam, they'll wait for the password to be sent, and now they can join the network. Right. But for that to happen, it is or can be noticed. And that's why I said keep your eyes out for devices not working on any kind of regular or irregular basis, because that's a telltale sign of that there may be someone trying to attack your environment. Again, it's just something that's sort of, if you have questions, we're on the internet. You can certainly feel free to reach out to us if anything like this weird happens to you, because sometimes it's been known to happen for, I call it stupid reasons. Many people didn't know that a microwave happens to run on the same frequency as certain Wi-Fi. And if you put a microwave close enough to a Wi-Fi device, it's going to, every time you use the microwave, your Wi-Fi goes down. So it could be for many reasons, but because of the availability to a lot of these type of hacking devices and the information in general, that's kind of the telltale sign to look for any of your home automation systems. If you start seeing connectivity problems, both inside the home or outside the home, right? Because when you're out, you're going over the internet to check on your devices. When you're in, for example, our application is not using the internet to connect out to the internet and back in. It's actually connecting directly to devices, right? So it's good to check these things both when you're out and when you're in on some sort of basis. But generally speaking, the thing to watch out for is if you start seeing them act weird and just kind of knock out and come back in and knock out and come back in, and that's a telltale sign of someone's trying to hack you.
And this might be a silly question, but I'm sure maybe some people that catch this, either they're watching live right now or at a later date. If you do suspect that something like this has happened and it's not the microwave and it's like you do think someone's interfering, what should the immediate steps be? Obviously, we're going to try and change the password, right? That'll be the first step. But is there anything else what steps could they take?
Of course, anything we're going to do is going to take a little bit of work, right? So changing the password is the easiest, but then changing the name of the network is another. That just change the SSID completely. One of the things to do also is not to broadcast what's called broadcast the SSID or the name of the network. So when somebody is looking at Wi-Fi, it's not sending out the name of the network as normal Wi-Fi normally does. So turning off broadcast SSID is one of the options you can do on your Wi-Fi routers. But if friends come over, for example, and you want to give them the password, they're not going to see your network. You're going to have to tell them the name of the network, right? So keep that in mind. So for the most part, it's that. But then if you actually go, okay, something is happening, like I said, the first step would be change the SSID, turn off broadcast SSID, and change the password. But now you're going to have to go and reconfigure all your devices to this, right? So it's going to take a little bit of work depending on how many devices you have, especially if you have a home, say, with 100 smart light bulbs. That's going to be a little bit of work. But then the other aspect is feel free to ask questions. Luckily, we are so connected that you can get on certain groups, and especially with, for example, our groups, our consumer groups too, to ask questions. And and as you know, Sean, some come back to me, right? And we can talk about them. And we'll get back to the consumers because each individual case may be different, right? But ultimately, if it is for sure that something has happened, then you have to determine whether or not it's the type of case or situation where even law enforcement can be involved. And that there's a lot of different thresholds on whether that's even an option. For example, in the US and Europe and so on and so forth, where, and in those cases, you actually don't want to necessarily fix the problem because you need evidence to be able to take someone to court or whatever it is, right? But so it really all depends on the situation. Like I said, if it's your basic thing, you just want to fix it and go. But if this is a situation where maybe you think you're a target for some reason, right? Whether you're a businessman and someone's targeting your home because you're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar deal, for example, that's a little bit different than if it's just your typical consumer. And again, every case by case basis, but beyond, if you really feel that it's already happened and continuing to happen, even if you've taken some of the steps we've discussed, you're going to need to reach out to a professional in some way.
Yeah, that's a lot. So anyone that's watching that has a funny Wi-Fi name for when your friends and family come around, maybe maybe make it less public and stop broadcasting it as well.
Yes, that definitely, you'd be surprised to, that does reduce the risk quite a bit, right? Because as an attacker, if I wanted to get on a non-broadcasted network, I would have to wait till a device requests to connect.
Yeah.
Then it will have to broadcast it, but you'd have to sit around a lot longer. Let's just put it that way, in a car outside, which could be somewhat suspicious, right?
Exactly.
And mention your cameras would maybe pick up that car, right? Or neighbors wouldn't notice that car or whatever. So the point is, all you're trying to do is reduce the risk, and that one certainly helps.
You've kind of answered the next question that the community put forward, which was around what's the most effective ways to secure the home Wi-Fi network when hosting guests during the holidays. But I think you've touched on quite a lot of that, right? The first one is make the Wi-Fi private and actually give the details to your guests. But was there anything else we haven't touched on?
Well, there is. You can actually create a guest network. Many of, I think, most Wi-Fi routers today you'll see that it says, a guest network. And you can turn that on. And, technically what that does is it creates a different, what's called a virtual LAN, a VLAN. So they have a different IP address internally, and they can actually, theoretically speaking, they're now going to be able to jump between the devices that are on your personal network, your home network, or the guest network. So turning on this guest network, especially around the holidays, especially when you may have people coming over, if you don't have this on now, then turn it on, right? Again, even if you have the option of non-broadcast, right, it would still be, Sean_guest that you're giving them. You're not giving them Sean_home.
Right.
So in both ways, it's good to have a guest network turned on, because, like I said, it's not at least going to prevent, again, a real knowledgeable attacker is going to know how to flood this router and be able to get around. But for the most part, reducing that risk would be just to create a separate network called Sean Guest, as an example. Now, don't you guys go create Sean Guest. It's whatever guest you want to create.
If anyone wants me as a guest for the holidays, I'm happy to attend as well. I love holiday food, Christmas food. So a big one, I know we've just come out of Black Friday, and I mean, everyone, if you just go on Amazon, for example, you can pick up any of the Alexa devices, all the smart home devices. So for sure, people's Christmas gifts this year are going to have some kind of smart home device. What steps should people take to secure these devices so that they don't become entry points for any type of cyber attack?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, and as much and as well as even we at eufy try to do with our default configuration, meaning you open the device, you basically try to make the device as easily usable as possible, right? Which is what, we hackers will call default configurations. Right, it's what default is on there and set by the company. That the information of that default information is widely known for just about every single consumer device you can possibly imagine, from default passwords to default names to default features. All of this is very well known. So the most important thing to do is when you get these devices is don't use it by default. Change the settings, change the names, change the passwords, change whatever settings are applicable to your environment. In other words, go through all of those pages that the device allows you to look at and change. And if you have questions about, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to make a change that makes this thing not work, then reach out to the community. I mean, again, this is a great thing that we all have is we have Google. We have, you know, the ability to search for information and find it rather quickly now. But the biggest mistake that and the biggest weakness is for most consumers just to leave default configurations. And I don't know what the percentage is, but I can tell you it's a very high percentage of people just leave the default configurations of whatever their device. They plug it in, they turn it on, it works, great. No, you should actually go into whatever the settings are, look at what the settings are, and change them.
Well, I think I used to do that at first because I think previously maybe it was a bit daunting, you know, setting up a security camera for the first time and oh wow, it's on, it works, it's connected to the app. But
Right.
actually, the more I dove into, especially now, we're coming into 2025. I mean, when I open the Eufy app and the way you can customize and link everything together and actually make it your own, because like you said, adaptive, everything's adaptive. So I don't want to have the same settings. I'm sure your camera settings are insane. So
exactly. I mean, think of it this way, man. I mean, I'll use a motorcycle as an example, right? You don't go buy a motorcycle and leave it exactly the way it came out. Almost every certain person I know, whether you're, you know, if you're a biker of any kind, the first thing you do is go buy some new bags or go do. You're personalizing it, right? Many devices, I think, you know, to a large degree, Apple's success was because they made you feel like oh, my Mac is personalized to me, right?
yeah,
It's different than your Mac, you know, even though it's the same device, right? In so many different ways. This is no different, right? In the sense that you should look at it as if it were a motorcycle and what kind of bags are you going to put on it and what kind of, you know, little features. And oh, I'm going to change this into little skulls or whatever you want to do. Think of your devices the same way. The features are there, the options are there. It's just that most of us don't tend to even look at them, right? So look at them. You're gonna find that you're gonna have fun with technology, have fun with these features. You know, you mentioned the AI features in our cameras. There's a lot of fun things you can do, and just because it's unknown, that should be something that's exciting to most consumers, not scary, right? If it's unknown, it's exciting. If it's known, it's boring. So
exactly. And actually, I think obviously I work here at Eufy, but it's free, you know, that's like a lot of the customization that you can do in the Eufy app. I mean, you're not paying, you bought the
right,
camera, make
right,
it yours. Like
it's already there.
how I said I don't want my dog to set off the cameras every single time. I literally have those. I know what camera is facing where, and the notifications when I'm at home, they're off because this is the
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
when I go out, I have the whole, like you said, I know I'm going away. So then suddenly I change the entire home automation with one click. So then I'm away. There's different settings completely. So I
No,
do encourage anyone watching.
no one knows your behavior better than you. No one knows your home's behavior better than you, right? No one knows, you know, literally all the things that you have in your home and all that better than you, right? So you have the power to really kind of change this, you know, and that way when something happens that's not in the typical behavior of your home, right?
Yeah.
You'll know, right? And you would know right away, right? So so use these features, use these settings. You know, I think you know, I'll mention this one because recently I was in New York with the Eufy team and did a piece, an interview with Forbes about a number of different things. But one of the things that came up was around, like, for example, a new camera that has the color capabilities. And
The
nice,
S3 Pro. Yeah.
exactly,
S3 Pro.
SP3 Pro. So, you know, and then one of the questions was around, you know, well, so what? We have color now. Why is that a big deal? Well, typically, if something did happen in your home, it sure is helpful when you tell the police what color shirt they were wearing, right?
Yeah.
And we don't even think about the most basic thing, which is just the feature and capability of it having that level of color and in darkness capability is actually a very big deal when it comes to should something happen. The more detail, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you before we finish a couple of things. What were your thoughts on the S3 Pro launch? Because I know you were there in New York with the team. And that was actually quite the first time I ever witnessed the team demonstrate that in HQ. I was actually blown away at the daylight vision.
Oh, yeah.
But then secondly, like now we have that in 2024. What are you looking forward to coming, or what are you looking forward to, but also maybe wary of in 2025, just in the world of like home consumer security?
Well, first, yeah, let me say that the launch is very, very cool, very interesting. I thought and felt the same way you did, Sean. I was like, how the hell did they do this? Because it was pretty mind blowing how clear and how I mean, in very dark environments that we were showing this at, and in New York, and I was pretty blown away that, I mean, it almost didn't even look like it was dark. Like there was a light on. That's very impressive, and you know, still being the ethical hacker, no idea how these guys, engineers at Eufy, came up with this capability, but it's very impressive. And again, it's important. And the color, just 4K color on a camera that's almost in virtual darkness is really cool. I have to give it to the folks at Anchor and Eufy on their innovations in so many things that they're doing. Now, concerns moving forward to 2025. Yeah, I wonder what else they're going to be coming up with. But more on the concern side is, the continued growth of AI and the use of AI across so many things, which I often argue and say that it's really IA. It's just more intelligent automation is what it is. We've had automation forever. What we're doing is making automation more intelligent. Even the Tesla robot or whatever you want to talk about, what you're still doing is trying to automate what? Whatever cleans the house or get my thing or do this. It's an automation mechanism that is supposed to be intelligent and learning so that it's not so linear in the way that it does whatever the automation is. But my concern is, for the most part, in how AI is being implemented into different technologies, especially consumer technologies, is its application and its intended outcome may be very different. We're seeing this now in pretty much all of our mobile devices, right? Our phones, which we rarely use as a phone. But these things are, we've already had many people in privacy concerns around, is this thing listening all the time? And more with AI, it is going to be listening, right?
Yeah.
To further automate what we would normally use, our fingers for, or whatever, into more talkative, more contextual based. And some of the concerns are around that because we are the ones feeding it the data, and the learning models that are behind it, we really don't know that much about. And so, at least as a consumer, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I think sometimes some of my concerns are around where AI doesn't make sense to be implemented into, and where it does. I don't think that we should think that this is just an end all be all. It's the next step in technology that'll make everything better. I think there are cases where technology makes things worse. And this is one of those where we're almost blanketing the entire technology industry into implementing AI in some way. And there may be cases where AI is not the best place to implement. It doesn't really bring us more value. If anything, it may bring us more risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic. I find it. I think I'm on the same side as you. I find it exciting, but I'm wary of it. Yeah, I think it's useful in some aspects, but then other aspects maybe not so useful or not so much needed as well. So
and also because we're in those cases where maybe it may not be needed or not perceived as being needed, what we have to keep in mind is that we are the data. I think I told you, if I didn't say it in the last one, it was an interesting conversation I had back in LA and Hollywood early on when I was first trying to work with them, was, and I was quoted by Forbes on saying this before, which was, if we were to say in Hollywood, they would often tell me when I first started working there was that content is king, right? And I would say, well, if content is king, data is the kingdom it lives in. It's no longer. Data is the kingdom, right? And what I mean by that is that AI is being perceived as being king, but AI is nothing without the kingdom, right? So we are the kingdom. We are the data. We are the ones feeding this thing. We are the one making this be the king, right? So we have to be careful sometimes because it is a reflection of us, and feeding it the wrong thing will make the wrong king.
That's a good that's a good way of looking at it. Leave some comments with your thoughts as well for anyone watching. Be interested to see everyone's take on it, because yeah, I think moving into 2025 we're going to see a lot more progressions. I think are mostly positive as well. So, but I think, Ralph, I want to say thank you once again for giving us your time. It's been a real interesting conversation today. And everyone watching, thank you so much. Happy holidays from everyone here at Eufy and Anchor. And Ralph, I'll let you lead us out with a final message.
Happy holidays to everyone. Stay safe, and hope that you all have a wonderful holiday. Don't eat too much, or eat as much as you possibly can. Yeah, certainly, feel free to reach out to us with any questions and comments, and certainly look forward to seeing you in the future, in the new year. Have a great end of 2024 and an even better 2025, and stay safe.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.